Blessings on blessings, everyone. We're starting this one. Sincere apologies. I've got granola bar in my mouth. This is Talk for a Brother. No egos, no judgment. Break bread
and prosper.
And prosper. I'm Coach Chris, Yam Power.
I'm Thomas Scannell.
And I'm Dino Okai, just having finished the granola bar.
You've done it before the show started. Thank you, Dean, for your doing it on time.
Professional.
Professionalism.
Professional.
That's what I'm looking for.
And we are truly blessed to have the esteemed presence of Brother Dean here today as well.
Dean, man, a little bit about your background, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I grew up in South London. I spent the first 30 years of my life in South London. I went in ever-decreasing circles because a lot of what I did at that naive stage in my life was to project who I am onto people that I liked because we were in the same environment. I had no criteria necessarily for friends. I had less understanding of my spirit, which means that what we do is locality-based. Now it's the polar extreme. So spending the first 30 years of my life in South London, I grew up in New Cross. I went to school in Deptford. When my parents divorced, we actually moved to Kenneton Ethelred Estate, where my grandparents lived. And then I continued to go to school in New Cross. So I was one of those kids taking my brother and sister to school across 3 boroughs. So we leave from Lambeth through Southwark to Lewisham. It's unheard of now at 13, but then it was normal. It's not, everything was normal. Coming home at 9 years old with a key was normal.
That door being left open and that.
No, not buses. My mum wouldn't have let us on. My mum wouldn't have let us on buses. It wouldn't have been sensible at 9. But I had a key at 9. So we lived in a very different world from today. We didn't have a death cult. We didn't have dormant killers rolling around seeking to get a body out of curiosity. And this is because we didn't desensitize ourselves through particular video games that made human life worthless. Exactly. So we knew everybody in our area. We used to play outside on the grass or in the park. If we were out of our parents' eyes, you know, you just got to walk around to the park. And if someone called, your mum wants you, and you're going back home. So this bygone era...
That wasn't by a mobile phone, by the way.
This wasn't mobile phone.
So these guys know. It wasn't
and this is the thing. We live in a totally different world. Because the only thing that we knew of mobile phones was in Star Trek. When they used to pop the, pop the wings. And it's funny, that was our first retail business, 2 mobile phone shops. So we lived in a very different time, which had its own challenges, but they weren't life and death challenges. If you had a bully, the worst you're going to have is a black eye. Now somebody might want to steal your child's life. So we would want to reinstate those challenges that we had then, but that would take for us to deliver something to build up the spirit of dormant killers so that they don't become active killers, because they're our sons. And our daughters.
And that's one of your main drives. Obviously, you've got AdPack packs behind as well. And Dean, even from what I've seen, you're a very proactive, long-standing servant and leader in the community. And we appreciate having you on board as well. You're literally giving me I'm having nostalgia effect, literally going back into even Kenneton as we were neighbours. Foxley Roborough, you know, it's just around the corner and Oval. And then just reflecting, like you're saying, it's a different time. That sort of my day was Thatcher's day.
Yeah, exactly.
And even leading back into the conversation is around trust or lack of that we have for our government, lack of trust that we have for Parliament, lack of trust that we have for NHS or police or this whole impact of...
Now herein lies the thing, because I think a lack of trust is the wrong term. So when people ask me if I trust somebody, I say, yes, I trust him, absolutely, to be who he is, because I know exactly who he is. Now, I know exactly who the government are, and I trust them to be who they are. So now ask me if I had colonial vaccine hesitancy.
Did you?
No, I had no hesitancy. I was clear. It would never transcend my skin.
Yeah.
Because
I
I
was
trust.
looking at it from a different point of view. I know who you are, so I'm not hesitant. I'm just not doing it. 'Cause
Well,
I know where
it-
you're coming from.
It's also that we have a limited comprehension of what 21st century government is globally. 21st century government, this thing we are introduced to, move your cup a bit closer, King. Partisan government is for children. This is my right hand, this is my left hand. There's only one body. Right. How does that body sustain itself? In the 21st century, why wasn't Keir Starmer concerned about losing the trade unions when he says he's going to create laws to stop you from striking? Because there's far more money that comes from the World Economic Forum, where all the billionaires have an agenda, play both hands, which feed the greedy face at the same time to get one outcome. Now, if you are looking at the outcome as opposed to the distraction of the right and the left hand, and before I go into that, do you know what magic is?
Magic, yeah.
What's magic?
Tricking an illusion to the person in front of you, innit?
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, sleight of hand, yeah.
So I say, right, everybody, and while I'm doing this, you're looking here, I go like that to Chris, boom.
Distraction.
And it's over here.
The word I was thinking of was distraction.
Distraction.
Yeah.
Now, the whole point of that distraction is to shift the consciousness of the people that you're performing for.
Attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I shift your consciousness from where it is to where I desire it to be, to accomplish an outcome, you would have a better understanding of why there was a conspiracy between government, owned media outlets, and corporations to use the tool of applied behavioral psychology to keep you in a constant state of anxiety so that you're malleable.
Fear.
Okay, so then ask me again if I had hesitancy about the colonial vaccine.
Did you have hesitancy?
No.
Did you?
Okay.
So, and it's an interesting perspective because what did we say earlier? You're learned, you're educated.
Well, I'm a
not
student.
Governed. You're a student.
I'm a student, personally.
but
I
we
will be a student until I transcend this plane.
And not every being or vessel within society now is capable or ready to be a student. And unfortunately, the mass we're talking about, 5%,
So
80%.
I always talk about capacity. So if you said to me, come to Croydon and deliver a program, and I was delivering a program in Hackney, I would say I have limited capacity. What I need to do is train facilitators. So if you've got a budget, I will use the budget to train facilitators. This is the scale of time that we could then do Croydon delivery. But not only could we do Croydon delivery, we could do Southwark, Lewisham, Lambeth, Haringey, Enfield and Brent. Because we're going to have 10 people in that room off of your budget to train facilitators. And then we use the quarter of the budget as wages, or half of it, or whatever it is, you understand? So first of all, we have to look at things in very clear and naked terms, like getting off the Nebuchadnezzar, being woken up from the Matrix, and understanding that you're eating sludge, not the synthetic steak that tastes very good. So
By choice.
we are required to have clarity about how the world really is, being the most vulnerable ethnicity on the planet.
So that leading into lockdown. So we've gone pre-lockdown, during lockdown, post-lockdown. How, from your perspective, and once again you're well learned and you navigate through a lot, what has your perspective been of where our community has been, went through and are going now?
Yeah.
Times are changing.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
jig is up.
in the beginning, I had absolute clarity. I had a colleague who was in the Cobra meetings which is the emergency meeting group of all the agencies that interact with the government around an emergency. Now, she was telling us, telling me actually, this is just before I formed ADPAC, which is why I really formed ADPAC, because the first incarnation was a think tank, which was really around the similar solutions, but not necessarily in terms of an institution, specifically for the 2,457,549 Africans and African Caribbeans by way of the census of England and Wales. And she said, we're going to be doing Zoom meetings. We're going to be locked in. Life is going to be completely different than it has ever been. We're not going to have any option. We're going to have to look out for our people. She gave me all this information that they gave in that meeting, the Cobra meeting. Then...
So, sorry, was this before we've actually gone into lockdown as
well? This was the... So, I started work on ADPAC at my desk March 13, 2020. And then I will get up at 8 o'clock every morning, sit at my desk and start work on ADPAC. And I did that consistently for the first lockdown. I can't remember how many months it was. I think it was maybe 3 months. So I did that consistently. That was my routine. All my phone calls, Zooms, colleagues, this, that, and the third, to form ADPAC. So what she said is that the Prime Minister says he's going to close schools. He then got on the TV and said he's not going to close schools. My mum phones me. I said, Mum, they're going to close the schools tomorrow. My mum said, no, you're in your shop. You don't know. Then he just came on TV and said they're not closing schools, Mr. Smart. I said, okay, I prefer it my way. But as I say these days, we'll see. In any case, they closed the schools the next day. And it was less than a week later that I was at my desk. Every day from 8 a.m. with my cup of coffee, my laptop, and my plans for this, which included research all through the day. So I have YouTube on TV, the greatest university known to mankind. I can go to a Harvard lecture. I can go to any university lecture I like that's been recorded. You name it. Esoteric information, fiscal, forms of governance, it is there. It is wasted via the distraction of pranks and foolishness.
It has to be put there, bro.
Fine, just like any library.
Come on, bro.
Okay.
How many people went to the library?
The pimps knew to go to the Kama Sutra straight away. Everybody else was looking at the funny papers. In any case. So that was it. So that was the start of my routine. And then obviously when you're in the house, now imagine, I'm a person who would work, I'm not going to say 7 days a week anymore at that stage, but it was pretty much. I was always doing something. So I belonged to a private members club. On a Monday, I would sit for 8 hours and just invite colleagues from LinkedIn for a year and just buy them drinks to get a peer education.
From home?
From the private members club. So I just invite people from LinkedIn. So I'd actually meet my contacts from LinkedIn every week. So I'd sit in this chair for 8 hours, get up to use the toilet, buy lunch, drinks, and just meet people and get a peer education. So my LinkedIn people are educators, they work in economics, they civic planners, every sphere of expertise you can imagine. So I was always getting that. So when you ask me if I'm educated, let's not misconstrue education with a formal indoctrination to make you complicit and useful in society.
Domestication.
So your doctor would look at me and say, I'm educated, and then next year they might say, well, you haven't done this, so you no longer have a job, and then your income is gone and whatever, and you're looking at me. No, I'm a student. I'll remain a student until I die. I won't graduate until I check out.
Do you know, I'm just thinking about what you're saying there, and it didn't actually come to me until you just said that. During the COVID lockdown, if we were really thinking about coming out of it, at our strongest being, the government wouldn't have said, here's free money. They could have said, here's free courses, here's free intelligence. No, but when you come out of it, you want to be in a better place than where you want to be, so you can study for free. Because you're at home doing nothing, innit?
At home doing nothing.
Doing nothing. Here is free education.
Not saying that was their intention. There were courses. Remember, we had the read ones. We got on some of the read ones as well, but I'm not saying that was.
Yeah.
It's not every single circle, and this is what my point that I was raising earlier is. It's not that it's every single person that's going to log on to the YouTube for that purpose.
But you said something very important. You said you're not saying it was their intention. Have no misapprehension about what they were intentional about, because you had absolute clarity about what they were intentional about. So were there any message they desired to convey to you in that time, you would have got it.
Yeah. There was nothing about...
Nothing ambiguous.
Yeah. Everything was how it was. I'll give my experience. When COVID lockdown went in, I wasn't thinking about burying myself. I was like, I'm going to Costco. I bought 3 bottles of whatever the vodka was, and I sat in my back garden. It was only 3 days in. I was like, this ain't my life. Like, I'm coming out of this. I've got 3 months of work because the first one was 3 months. I'm coming out better. Talking about what Ricky said, like the conflicting messages that we were given as a community throughout COVID from day one. Don't worry, it's 3 months to 6 months to wash your hands, to wear a mask, to don't wear a mask, to this. Like, what sort of an impact does that have on us? Like, number one, didn't do any of it, didn't care for any of it. I did what I did. That was
exactly the same.
If you didn't want me around you, I wouldn't go around you. That's I don't care. We're allowed to have difference of opinions and still get along. That's not my problem. But for people that are a bit more in tune with following what's being said, how are they? That impact on their mental health must have been massive. And just like today, me and you can talk. Tomorrow, I can't even be in a meet review. Next day after that, I'm not allowed to see you for 6 months to a year. Like, how much of an impact did that have around the people around you? Because like your community is massive. You know so many people, and you talk and meet people. So how did that affect you and your community?
Based on the ilk of people that I know, it did not affect us one iota. So now, but I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
If there was confusion, was that by design or by accident?
It must have been by design. Because
so now that design is called applied behavioral psychology. Now, if you don't know whether to pop or go blind, what you do is you sit still. Now, when you sit still and you are confused, you are malleable. And all the architect of your confusion does, wait for it, bam, we got a vaccination. You are to go to the station to be injected. Don't question. Oh, they're questioning on social media? Clamp that down. Fact checker. Now just completely hide that, ban that. Now there's one opinion. There's one point of reference. Now, the whole point of your confusion was to instruct you to sit down, shut up.
Obey.
So, now I'm glad you touched on that. Remember, I say everything is an equation of formulas.
Yeah.
The way that I make you complicit with what I do is first I train you to seek validation. So when you're in school...
External validation.
External validation. When you're in school, what do? If you're naughty, you go in the naughty corner. If you're good, I'll give you a gold star. So now I've taught you to fear the naughty corner for having a difference of opinion, not for necessarily striking out or being adverse in your behaviour, but sometimes difference of opinion that is strenuously conveyed. Naughty corner, fear. Fear, obey, conform. Fear, obey, conform. Fear, obey, conform.
It's the opposite to the other algorithm of getting everything you want, isn't it? That's like the dividing of everything you said to, if you want it, what was it? Desire.
So now if you want an inevitable outcome, that is also a formula. The formula is emotion times intention times your desire. Now the caveat is that your emotional quotient has to be a high vibration. Because if it's not, you're not attracting what you desire.
So you replace that with fear.
We always
if you replace that with fear...
We always do attract, no matter what, whether it's...
No, you do attract, but you may not attract what you desire. So remember I said it was emotion times intention times desire equals an inevitable outcome. Now, if your emotional quotient is low, you aren't attracting what you intend and desire. So you have to learn to extract yourself from your environment, if your environment doesn't work for you, to create a high vibrational emotional state in order for the formula to fall in place and work.
Brother, that starts though when you actually realise what if you think you're attracting what you want. Because a lot of the times we go through that low vibrational frequency.
Absolutely.
And we attract, brother, it's just, you're right. No matter whether it's good or bad, whether you think you're right or wrong, you're always right. Whether you're putting out good or bad, you're
attracting it.
You're attracting it. That whole frequency, Tom's had a great question about your circle, and you answered it very quickly. Everybody within your network, and that was one of the points.
Did exactly what we were doing. I never wore a mask.
Exactly.
I had no fear of anything.
And everybody around you, gravitated everyone around you.
Yeah.
And you're all of like-minded, that same ilk, if that's the right
but
word.
I'm intentional about the ilk of people that I interact with.
Ilk, thank you, of people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're not on that, if you're not yet achieving that frequency, if you're still low, even
it's
below
the frequency. It's the frequency. So let me ask you a question.
There's a lot of questions on this podcast.
Coming our way. Coming our way.
This is only had one question.
It's just one question. It's my last question. So, if I were to broadcast a DAB frequency, could you pick that up on an AM or FM radio?
Nah.
Yeah, I love it.
It's rhetorical, right?
I love it. But how do you know if you're on an AM radio? And you only know AM radio? How would you even know that there's any other frequency?
You're gonna miss it. It's not for you.
But it's not for you. Until the point where you actually are able to see actually there's more than just.
And maybe and maybe they won't ever.
Do you know one of the biggest things?
And I'm not trying to. I'm neither a converter of man, woman, nor child.
I agree with that, and I think a lot of people, and I think that's when again we're talking about ego and getting over it. Is like I no longer think I'm right or wrong. I'm ready to learn. But I'm also don't believe everybody is on the same journey. So like you said, us three here, we're having a good conversation, but we might not end up in the same place. We probably won't end up in the same place, but we accept each other's abilities and whereabouts, and we just can't move it forward. In the same way, somebody wants to wear COVID masks, congratulations, but it's not my choice, and we should be happy to do that. I think the problem we see with today's world is everybody wants to put a title on something and push them into their corner and separate, because that's another form of.
But there's a reason.
We said
ownership.
We said earlier about control.
Yeah.
So what you're, I'm not sure if you're not consciously, intentionally going towards it, but it's an element. The conversation we're having about the ego.
Completely.
So many people in society, whether it's leaders or politics, whatever it is,
but we're conditioned
trying to have that element of control. Okay,
we're
I'm going to control you guys
be
now.
egoic. We are conditioned in the same way that we are conditioned to fear, obey, and conform. Remember, conform and conforming has its rewards. So I went to a mayor's question time during the lockdown. This was the Camden mayor's lockdown, which was it in Euston? Somewhere around there, possibly Great Portland Strip, I can't remember. I'd be telling a lie if I could remember the building. In any case, I was physically there, and the questions that were asked by people wearing masks were picked and then answered. And then they made a joke of it, and they said, we're going to ask people with masks. And I turned around and I looked at this woman sitting next to her husband and look at them. You see, what they had been
systemic
is validated for their compliance.
It's like a reward.
Now, you've been. It didn't take much. I mean, this couple were in their mid-50s to early 60s, and they were chuffed because someone said, "I thought,
mask on, I'll get your question."
Serio?
Yeah.
You're serious about this?
Yeah.
That's what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It takes that little effort. You're so malleable that me telling you you're a good Johnny because you wore a mask impresses you. Well, God bless.
External validation, bro.
You know,
and we're in a society.
Because I'm in a rush and I've got to go, so I'm not even going to get to the thing. I'd like to ask you one more question, but I know the answer to this question as well.
You can ask me another one after. You've got another question behind that.
You see, the question to this is obviously the whole thing of this COVID, which is how do we break down COVID hesitancy and
vaccine hesitancy?
Vaccine hesitancy, yeah.
Okay.
And should we break down vaccine hesitancy?
I think the question is the wrong question to ask you because...
No, you can ask that question if you like.
Can I ask that question?
Yeah.
How do we break down vaccine hesitancy in our community?
By creating clarity.
Trust.
By creating clarity. So the first thing is, if I hear gunshots, what's the first thing I need to do? Is duck and make sure that I'm safe, right? Then I can investigate where the gunshots came from.
Yeah.
So let's say that over here there was a billionaire who had a corporation that printed money. Let's say they made something like software licensable to every single PC on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Every year you can make a tax write-off deductible donation to any charitable foundation. Let's say you set one up of your own and called it Billion Mills Foundation. That foundation, having charitably donated hundreds of millions a year, because you make billions globally as the CEO of the corporation which you started, then has a war chest of billions. Now, in your mind, this is a foundation for the world, but for me, it's my personal fiefdom, which is a VC company. So let's say I wanted to go and buy Monsanto, so now I control all of the source of seeds in the world. I can do that. Let's say I wanted to invest in the WHO, so that it reflects my ideology. Let's say that I went to invest in big pharma across the board. Let's say that I have some powers in media that through meeting them on my 100 million PR tour, after them breaking up my cartel, trying to buy another company, said I couldn't buy it, so I had to make me a good guy. And I saw 100 million did that. Well, I got billions now. So it's going to go down in Chinatown. Trust me. Okay, so now I say, well, you got labs over there, you got big pharma there, that looks like A and B. I'm going to put it very simply for all of the slow seats in the church. You remember that in the 50s and 60s, the Richardsons and the Crays used to collect money. Well, what they do is get a bag of kids to smash your windows on a Monday. Then on Tuesday, guys in suits turn up and they say, I think you need protection.
Running a racket.
You should be running a racket. All right, I finished.
So clarity is the way forward.
Supply and demand.
Clarity is the way forward because I do.
But
go on, bro.
Sorry,
I was going to say we don't really look at the thing. Like I said, the bigger picture is certain people own pharma. They also own the food line, which is in problems at the moment with the Ukraine and Russia. Right. They also have investments in the oil companies. And 2023 is around the corner. What's next for us is the question.
It's a game.
Monopoly.
But it's not child's play.
Yeah. Blessings. Brother, thank you so much. That was even deeper. We dove.
Well, we scratched the surface.
No snorkel. Yeah, no snorkel. I appreciate you.
We need to learn to breathe without one.
Asha.
Because what's coming is 4,000 fathoms above us. And if we don't learn to swim where we are, we're going to get the bends come next March, brother.
Were we not just talking about cold showers before
this? Yeah. Conditioning.
Conditioning, brother.
Conditioning is important.
We're conditioned to need that central heating.
And nothing has happened yet. All they've done is create the condition, but nothing of consequence has happened yet. So in a time where we're stressed, like we were in lockdown,
but somewhere in lockdown.
And
not in a judgmental way either.
No.
But in a reflective.
But what we should be aware of is that there are also frequencies being emitted. And you've got to ask, is this actually even my normal personality? And take that self-assessment.
It's avatars. But on that note, before we go on even further or delve even deeper, obviously Tom's not with us right at the moment. He's had to leave. Childcare duties come first. They're a priority.
Absolutely.
If and when I get the call from my parents who are picking up one of my bambinos right now, I will have to just jump out and drop them the keys.
But do you know why?
So it's love.
Family is the first technology, and it's the technology we've forgotten as our families become broken. See, even if a woman has a child and the man is is fully in the child's life, fully paying all his responsibilities to her, the child, she will tell the world, has been conditioned to tell the world, that she's a single parent because her relationship broke down. Family is the first technology. Yeah. So when I say we do things that we aren't even aware of, there's no intention behind it. We've become repeaters of social conditioning, and we live in an echo chamber, not even of our own recognition.
Yeah, it's avatars, and it starts from young. If you're playing games from a young age, I'm not saying games are a bad thing.
Yep.
But it's that whole mindset of going into a game and just being so monotone and not being able to understand. It's by design. Like even you get into another level, even
it's all by design.
Dying, whether you're dying, living in a game, whatever you're doing in that game, and then not understanding the difference between that being a game and the application that you have to have in real life.
Yeah.
There's a point I'm going to it. I'm going to come round. It's by design. Monopoly, chess. Connect 4. Computer game. It's a choice to either play that game, choice to be a pawn in the game, choice to be even clocking the game and playing the game again, a choice to actually cheat on the game.
But do you know, herein lies, based on your conditioning, the choice is removed. Because the game is designed for two different users. You see, somebody's using the game fully understanding the game.
Somebody's coding
and somebody is using the game just to play.
Somebody's coding that game, bro.
But the person who's coding the game is creating it for two different users.
Yeah.
Somebody is playing intentionally to win, and somebody's just playing the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. And if you're in a position where you don't even know you're in a game, if you're in a position that you know you're cypher, you know you're in a game.
You always know you're in a game.
Ignorance is bliss.
But if you don't understand the nature, you know when you're in a game. I don't believe anybody is stupid. You see, there are sophistications of intelligence, and there are people that some would say you're stupid. And as you scratch the surface and you'd make the investment to actually hold a conversation with that person, you say, do you know what? They're actually not simple. They're a lot more complex than I thought. And the understanding, although not necessarily sophisticated, is more sophisticated than I imagined from my first snapshot.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care to delve, because there's nothing in it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that charitable. But that's when you develop a different set of eyes. Because I've been in a room where somebody said one thing, and now I'm honed in on them, and I can't see anybody else in the room.
Yeah.
Because what they said was something coded to me, but they're just speaking to me. They weren't speaking to anybody else in the room.
It's just the one. Yeah.
So when I say these things happen, we've got to develop a more sophisticated understanding of how society works.
Yeah.
Because that's how societies work.
Or remember a more sophisticated way of understanding, and it's knowledge that we've been detached from, knowledge that's been removed, knowledge that we've chosen to ignore. Like you're saying, we were talking earlier about libraries and YouTube, and having the information is everywhere.
But the first library is in our blood.
Yeah, sure, it's there. It's
which
DNA.
is our DNA.
It's DNA. It's memory.
And
it's there.
That junk matter, where our ancestors communicate with us, is the first library.
Yeah.
And that's why when we're hearing these things, they're just reaffirmed.
Exactly.
Because they're known.
It's remembering, brother.
And in the same way that our nose is our father's, or our eyes are our mum's, our characteristics are our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and they're speaking to us.
You see that line in Avatar, so I don't know if you've seen the series, obviously, with children, but even without children, I watched it, Last Airbender. And
we went to the cinema to see the film, me and my boy. Yeah.
Same. We took our children. A bit. Just I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan.
M. Night Shyamalan.
I appreciate him. I appreciate him. That I don't think was one of his best, but for the nature of the film and this within the series, what they do with unlocking chakras and everything about ancestral communication.
That's so some people's introduction,
brother. Yeah, there's so many gems. That's a sort of program that children should be watching. If
the aim were to educate them and not indoctrinate them to fit and conform in a system that is sustained.
Yeah.
So systems are important. And what you've created here is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So who's our sponsor?
Brother. We've been patterned with some beautiful, beautiful delicacies from my brother Dave, Guava Grill, South Norwood, Portland Road. If you don't know, get to know. And obviously the show is no egos, no judgment, break bread and prosper. As you can see right there, our brothers have delivered, over-delivered. And we appreciate you, brothers. So you guys are going to dig in.
The man behind the camera.
Ricks, you've got your plate there. Grab away. There's fish and prawns and everything. Wow, these guys put sauce in.
Beautiful.
Brother, grab away, like help yourself whilst it's still warm as well. There's plantain. I said it with my chest.
God damn.
I said it with my chest.
God damn, Charlene.
I said it.
It's not plantain.
Confidently.
It's plantain.
Plantain.
Okay.
You know, I said it confidently as well.
No, you did. Hey, that's half of it. I'm Professor Okai. I said that with chess.
Ricks, have you got your plate?
No, I'm good.
He's listen, we don't have time for this false humility. He's not even on camera, and he's telling us he's good because he doesn't want us to see how he eats. So since we're not blessed with knife, I've now got fork and fork. As
do you know what they've done their thing? There's going to be a few other providers supplying some delicacy for us. So as the show goes on,
yep,
you're going to see a few more different bites that come along.
And that's it. It is about widening the delivery of the actual community, which is beautiful.
There's so many amazing organisations, businesses, like you say, ecosystems already existing, and it's about coexisting.
It's about coexisting.
It's about breaking down that whole crab mindset of it's all about me. There's not enough to go around.
Do you know the first thing, brother, we got to stop doing? We've got to stop repeating.
Yes.
Because we're amazing repeaters.
I'm trying to reinvent the wheel.
We repeat what the echo chamber says. Oh, we're crabs in a barrel. It will never happen in my lifetime. Oh, we can't unify. Oh, we don't get on. You could be sitting in a room with 100 people in it. We've all come down for the same meeting. We've paid 20 quid to come there. And the first thing a man is going to do when he comes on stage is we can't unify. Somebody slapped that man. You see, there's a problem now in that the rhetoric and the spells that we repeat that are adverse to our advancement have been so adopted at a DNA level that we don't seem to be able to change. So first of all, I'll tell you, if we want progress that is going to advance our... Yeah, I'm going to cut a piece off of the salmon so that our brother, the man behind the camera, a God in training...
Rax, you're going to have some?
No, he is going to have some.
He's trying to be modest. In fact, I know he's going to take it home, isn't it?
So what I was saying is that if we wanted to have the socio-economic system that we desire, it's a project. So projects have milestones. Projects have collaborators. You give those collaborators tasks on a daily basis. Projects have milestones. You've identified the outcome. You've reverse engineered it. So now the outcome is inevitable. But when we talk about doing something for carbon organic people, aka Africans, for those who are offended by the possibly Roman term, aka blacks, who are the byproduct of a 500-year European black experiment.
Going a bit Moorish.
Well, absolutely. Because at the heart of all of this is our sovereignty. So once we recognize that we should speak in these ways to actually accomplish a particular task, it will be accomplished. But we don't approach what we do as a project, do we? We come in with some airy-fairy, nothing is talking about tangible, concrete actions to create tangible, concrete outcomes. We start to get fuzzy. So what I like to do is say, identified outcome, project milestones, put several agile project managers in place for each component of the actual project, give everybody their recognizable tasks and their authority to carry out those tasks. And then once that is accomplished, you put it into timescales, you give it a budget, and we go.
It's working backwards.
To me, it's working backwards.
It's working backwards.
As a reverse engineer. And anybody who, from your Elon Musk Oh, good, thank you, brother. Using first principles reasoning is working backwards as a reverse engineer.
Yeah.
And that's what's required right now.
The roadmaps are there. The blueprints are there. The examples, however you want to look at it.
And the thing of it is sometimes we'll just look at our own ethnicity for the solution. But we have to look around the entire planet for every single project that has been successful in society to actually understand that it comes from everywhere.
Is it not the same as faith?
Yeah.
Or any form of education, taking the best understanding, and understanding, overstanding, understanding, the best practices from each tribe, from each tribe, and not being too, once again, egotistical to be able to do that.
You can't have any ego involved. Ego precludes a successful outcome because it's not about personalities. So the first thing we have to do is become pragmatists. Within that, we have to become engineers because engineers, it's got nothing to do with personality. It's got nothing to do with feelings. We have to break down the science of the challenge that we're attacking.
Yeah.
And then we have to, like an elephant, if you're going to eat it, piece by piece until it's consumed.
This is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
This is our breakfast, by the way.
Who's the sponsor again? Yeah, this is mine.
Yeah, it's Guava Grill. So shout out Guava Grill. If you're not already on their socials, hit up their Insta, hit up their Facebook, hit up their website, like whatever it is, Twitter. Shout out to Guava Grill. We appreciate you, brother. Brother Dave just dropped this off. So we appreciate it. This is breaking bread.
I appreciate Guava Grill. So we have the competition with plantain.
I did say plantain earlier, didn't I? Yeah.
Hey, brother. Like Ho said, you are who you are, player.
But
that's just the top player. You was who you was before you got here.
Brother. But this is a beautiful adventure. That's the one thing I'll say about this journey. From the setup to data, everything, even in general. The amount of times that I've come into your acquaintance. The last one was at the Black Awards.
And I missed you.
Do you know what was funny? I only clocked you were there as they were doing one of the awards and you were coming from the tour and you walked past the table. I was like, I swear.
I can't hide.
Bro. And Rachel was on the table behind as well.
She came over to our table.
But it's beautiful. Even potentially shouting out the Black Awards.
Yeah.
Giving them recognition, the Bright Light award ceremony.
To acknowledge us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And theirs was a collaboration with the Royal Navy. Was it their first event? Or second, I think.
I'm not 100% sure.
But in Grand Sapphire, paid away Croydon.
Beautiful.
A beautiful acknowledgement, appreciation, and recognition of a lot of the work that's been going on in the community as well. So
the whole thing, the venue, the quality of the food, the guests who were invited down, the winners of the awards and the contribution they make to us. So the first request I'd make, let's lose from our vocabulary that we cannot unify. Let's lose the crabs in a barrel. Here's the thing. Poverty, universally, is the best disinfectant for human decency, right?
I like that.
Having acknowledged that poverty is the best disinfectant for human decency is universal. It's not black. So when you talk about crabs in a barrel, poor people pull down poor people so as not to transcend the environment which keeps them poor.
I love it.
When you are dealing with people of African origin, we are not a monolith. We are at different stages in our socio-economic development, in terms of the wealth that we hold, in terms of the intellectual capital that we hold and convey and demonstrate in the world. So let's not do that so-called black people are crabs in a barrel. Nonsense.
Okay.
Poor people universally pull down poor people to be able to prey and consume on each other.
I'm going to ask a question on your thing on. And we've gone off. If not necessarily COVID related. So when you're saying poor, You're not just talking about monetarily poor.
Economically and spiritually
Spiritually,
poor.
Asha.
Because being broke is a momentary interruption in one's income or opportunities.
Bringing the what? Yeah, cool. Thank you, Damien.
And back to the script.
So, Tom's last question in regards to within our community and circle around. In fact, sorry, what was Tom's last question? Because I just remember the last bit on what he was saying about being in the community. It was afterwards, wasn't it? Vaccine hesitancy. So going forward now, in regards to what do we foresee, what do we forecast in regards to your network, in regards to the society in general, that 80, well, whichever percentage we want to look at. Where do you forecast our interaction with government? There's a lot going on right now, right? If anybody doesn't know, there's a whole yay Irving thing going on within our community.
Yeah.
Let me talk less. Where would you say?
Well, here's the thing. So we touch on two different topics that aren't really two different topics. Now, what those topics, where we unconflate them and then look at the common threads, is that they are both about the control and they are both about creating a capitulation in Africans. So first of all, there's no such thing as vaccine hesitancy. It's a created term for an experimental drug that doesn't work as a vaccine because you can still contract the actual virus once you've taken it. So it doesn't qualify to be called a vaccine if you can still contract COVID.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's just dispel all the myths based on propaganda from a one-sided machine that has totalitarian control based on the collusion between social media, broadcast media, corporations and government. A fact, a universal fact, lives up to 360 degrees of scrutiny. Now, if you get around the back 90 degrees in and it isn't consistent with what you were told here, it's not a universal fact, it's a social truth. In fact, it's just propaganda. So when you get all the way around and you've looked at the whole thing, and less than 2 years later, you've got investigations that will hold those who told us it was an absolute, who then say, no, there was no human testing. Yes, the adverse side effects caused heart attacks, which we've seen.
Pfizer recently.
Tens of thousands of young, healthy men and women who've died of heart attacks. We can no longer buy it. So if a particular group of people of a faith, not an ethnicity, contrary to media propaganda, owned propaganda, purporting that Judaism is an ethnicity, it isn't. Judaism is a religious faith, which was born on the continent of Africa, which is no surprise why Kyrie said, I am a Hebrew. Because Jews came after Hebrews who were just nomadic traveling people, who my ancestors, even though I do not consider myself a Jew, who came down through Nigeria, settled in Accra as Gaz, who happened to be Nigerian in their origin, were Jews. So when I learn about King Nene Teta, who...
Before it was Nigeria. Talk about 1886.
The created borders. Fine. So, because I have some historical understanding of my own people, even though I do not choose the Jewish faith for myself, because like J.J. Rowling said, I will be one of those who goes back to their ancestral table and will not swear on that and lie. I could possibly be accused of lying on the Bible in court, but I would not swear on my ancestors and lie. So when I say hand to God, I talk about the God in me, which is my ancestors. So whenever I say hand to God, now truth is going to pass my lips because I'm speaking on my people. The book, not to lay any disrespect to the Bible, which was curated after the Council of Nicaea. It's also a very powerful spell book when we talk about codification. So like I would say to someone who talks a lot, you would take a pound coin and bury it in pennies. Well, that's what the Bible is. There are pound coins buried underneath a lot of pennies.
Yeah.
For the great unwashed, we want you to consume the pennies. For those who are adept men and women, you consume the coins. And this is how society actually works. So there is a greater understanding through esoteric knowledge than is conveyed to the great unwashed, who will be told that they are vaccine hesitant when they're merely exercising their inalienable right to choose what they allow in their body. Because there's no such thing as vaccine hesitancy. It's a made-up nonsense.
So is this another distraction?
It's a huge distraction. And it was a social experiment to see how compliant and malleable human beings are in the 21st century. Because there hasn't been any recent social experiment to actually be able to quantify that. Now, after 2 years, seeing just how happily people could be put into a place of full-time anxiety,
Confinement.
from using applied behavioral psychology, we now know just how malleable mankind is. So when Ye or Kyrie are told they're supposed to do this, based on that social experiment with COVID protocols, we're supposed to fall right in line. But creator gods don't fall right in line. Now, if you allow someone else to control your income, he who pays the piper calls the tune.
Yeah.
So an apology is just an efficient way of reinstating your income. Whereas to stick to your grounds, you would have to be independent.
You have to detach.
You
so
have to
right now
detach.
it's a choice of both on Kanye and Kyrie's positions. More Ye's position.
No, not more. Do you know what you just said? You just said what Ye said. Ye said, choosing to be a slave after 400 years is a choice. What was misconstrued, slavery didn't last 400 years. So he was talking about today. Now, if we go to his big brother, Hove, he said it in a cute way, which is how I say things. Until you're by yourself, you can't be me. Until you're by yourself, you can't be free. How we still going to be slaves in 2016? Ye said, choosing to be a slave after 400 years is a choice. Now, that's the difference between a man who speaks at the speed of thought and a man who thinks, calculates, because he's a human calculator, who's very premeditated, and then delivers it how it's palatable.
Ye's more in a way where it's no filter.
It's no filter
And
because he
he's at
speaks at the speed of thought.
He's at a presidential level. Who else is on the same scale where Ye is right now?
The problem with Ye is if you were to hear my thoughts as I accrue them, you would be terrified of what I said.
Or maybe familiar.
Quite possibly. Now, for the vast majority of people, there would actually be fear based on how society is governed. So I curate what I say. I take that which is complex and make it simple, and then translate it to make it accessible to everybody. And if I went into a room of a Senko room of children, a Senko 5-year-old should be able to understand me, explain politics. Or I'm an idiot, not them.
So I love that you use the example of Senko children. So working in schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and it's a very relatable example. And seeing how teachers, and my lady's a teacher, I have amazing relationships with a lot of teachers, but seeing how...
Me too.
Some irresponsible teachers teach children and, like you say, can't communicate with the Senko children.
And blame the children.
And blame the child. And seclude the child. And remove and reject the child from even the classroom, which is actually supposed to be a safe haven for that child.
Based on their lack of capacity to convey a simple message.
Lack of capacity, lack of empathy, lack of love. And once again, not in a judgmental way, and this is not a reflection on all teachers. I'll be very
It's
mindful.
But it is a widely experienced reality for our children.
And then when you do speak, or when I did speak to a lot of those teachers, excuse me, because in the same mind, there's amazing teachers as well that I've come across, especially ones who are still learning and exactly as you say, still students, you know. But you do get the small few that unfortunately do impact a lot of.
Okay. Take judgment out of it. Here's the thing. Everybody is merely representative of wider society. So if you have thieves, paedophile, rapists, helpers, enablers, guardian angels in society, you also have them in schools.
Yeah, that's sure.
Every single one of them, in
This
fact.
is it, yeah.
Now, statistically, we don't know what they are, but we do know they all live in and cohabit in that ecosystem. They all affect our children. We seek to identify the predators, whatever their predatory nature is.
Yes.
And we seek to identify those who are the guardian angels and custodians so we can further promote them.
Sure.
We remove our romance with this title of teacher because a role isn't a title, it's the demonstration.
Exactly, brother. Aligned once again with the community. And using that same example, that same construct of a school. We generally are in a school, but what if we're not? What if school isn't for us?
But here again, what is a school? So
Institution or
a building that is created to contain children for 8 hours a day, not to enlighten them, for them not to question, not to unearth who they are. Is that what school is? So if we went back to mystery schools with a 33-year curriculum, excuse me, an 8-year curriculum for Europeans who may not have looked exactly like Europeans look today. This is the thing, which is why we say there are levels to this thing, because the deeper you unearth history in terms of its accomplished, the darker it gets. Now, we understand the agenda to lighten that history, and if we compared it with Planet of the Apes, that was what the Forbidden Zone was about. Now, if apes talk and humans don't, why is there a talking doll with a cord in that cave? Why are there reading glasses in that cave? The darker the history gets. And we see it with the Sphinx in the British Museum.
You see it in Rome, bro. Look,
the afros on coins,
bro.
So we understand and we know, but because a lie repeated so frequently becomes pervasive and fully adopted.
And this is it. And I think once again, navigating back to where we are, you've answered every question that we've put down so far, and you've actually done it. You've actually done it before. You've asked us several questions, and I think it's even more enlightening.
Reciprocity.
So yeah, this is it. I'm just thinking, building this because you're doing it.
No, we're doing it, brother.
Thank you,
because
brother.
we're delivery partners in 30 seconds.
Thank you. What do we need? What else do we need? Not only as a community, but as beings to unlock. What do we need to do in order to start? Because a lot of us are still, once again, not even aware that we need to learn.
So here's the thing.
What do we need to do?
For those who aren't aware, in other ethnicities and communities, they are protected. In our community and ethnicity, they are by themselves. So here's the thing. If you look at any successful community, they have something that bonds them, and it's a narrative. So take, for instance, because you brought up Kyrie and you brought up Ye. So Zionism is a narrative that absolutely bonds Eastern European Jewish people completely. Saying that, there are Eastern European Jews who aren't Zionists, who also fight on behalf of Palestinians and the inhumanity that is conveyed to Palestinians via land misappropriation and home destruction to pass on to settlers in illegal settlements, which are Palestinian lands, to be frank, which is a universal truth. So these things aren't looked into based on what Germany did to the Jews. England didn't do it. America didn't do it. Africa definitely didn't do it. And it is to be dealt with sensitivity in where it was. However, the Jewish Holocaust of 12 years isn't the only Holocaust that took place. So we are a people who have suffered many Holocausts.
Apartheid.
On the count. So let's go back. So I'm not going to go into the black nobility in the UK because people may not know. But then there was the interruption of Cromwell within that, and our people who were here. That's one for research. So we're going to park it. Many African Holocausts, and then if we want to come up to contemporary times in the 21st century, apartheid. Now, the funny thing about the duality of apartheid is it happened around the same time as the Balfour Agreement and the incorporation of Israel on its 99-year lease, which was the last bastion of British Empire setting up, because it was the British military who actually set up Israel on behalf of the Eastern European Jews through Zionism and a right to return. It happens that to date, they have some 67 UN infractions on human rights, which is all about the settlements, none of which have been questioned. But that's more a question around media ownership and the distribution of knowledge and information. We have some clue how that goes based on the COVID protocols. We'll park that. Coming back to apartheid, resources were stolen, and because any attack on us is an Afrophobic attack, we've never pointed at Jewish people and said that you established the diamond trade based on stolen diamonds in Antwerp, which was an economic theft, which was an Afrophobic attack because we were having a Holocaust at that time, and that money which was ploughed back into those committing the Holocaust advanced their ability to commit that Holocaust. So reparations are in order, but we have no hatred because we're not hateful people. It's just not in our nature. And
it's a massive projection.
As a sovereign being under God, my right to protect us from Afrophobia is equally as much as your right to protect yourself from anti-Semitism. We've never had any hand in any anti-Semitic attack that has ever made any impact on Jewish people, ever. The same isn't true of the economic speculators behind the diamond trade in South African apartheid, who impacted us through a Holocaust.
Or even slavery, bro. Come on. Any form of...
See, shall I tell you why I deal with the most recent? And not recent, let's say, that's not, because it's not the most recent, ongoing. Because we could go cobalt and we could...
We've said it.
So we can go to a number of countries today where economic speculators are advancing the ongoing Holocaust, which are extracting resources whilst African bodies are falling.